people people seem to be irritated about the whole abuse of the benefit system and all that stuff, okay? But the thing is, I understand that, but personally I think benefits are a really good thing. It's the abuse of the benefit system that people are really, really peeved about. But what I always, tend to say about the whole situation is abuse of the benefit system is nothing new. I know a woman in her 60s who has been on benefits all her life, Social Security. She lives in the council housing, nothing wrong with that. But my point is she's never worked a day in her life, okay? Never done a day's work. So back in the times of Blair and before that, Margaret Thatcher, all those times, these sort of issues were going on. People are just really, really peeved about it now, simply because times are so hard and people are working so much and so hard for so little. People are really, really peeved about it. But if you look at that program on, I think it was Channel 4, Skin, a few weeks back in June or late May, people had a real opinion about how people spend their benefits, because there seems to be a real unfairness with everything. This whole we're in it together thing, we're obviously not all in it together, The working class people, the people who work and are really struggling, don't feel we're all in it together. The politicians aren't in it with us. All the big companies where all the scandals are coming out and all that good stuff, they're not in it with us. The companies who aren't paying tax and won't be paying tax for another 150 years, they're not in it with us. Look at all the scandals we've had in the last 12 months. The ones about petrol, the ones about tax and all this stuff. And then you've got someone like Cameron wanting to give Jimmy Carr a hard time for taking his money offshore where the government can't get at it.
Which wasn't illegal. Of
course it wasn't illegal. This is it. This is what we have to remember. What he did was nothing illegal. I don't see the difference between him doing that to keep the money in his pockets and the big companies who are avoiding paying 100 and X million pounds of tax and all this stuff. I mean, really? Mega money. And rather than paying that forward to the customer or the people who are really struggling, greed. The whole system is based on just this greed, So I'm not saying anything that people don't already know, but the benefits thing, I don't think you're ever really going to change. Not unless you put a brick through the whole thing and you build it back up again. But people are always going to have something detrimental to say about benefits, because people on benefits are automatically assume they're scroungers. And not all of them are. That's not right. There's plenty of people who are on benefits who've fallen on hard times.
Well, most of them aren't. Most of them aren't, if you see what I mean.
You're not wrong. I mean, first of all, they're talking about revamping the system and all this. Okay, you've got to revamp the system. And you've got to get people off benefits. You've got to stop paying people for doing nothing. That is all very true. But there is no point in you taking people off benefits when there are no jobs to go into. The fundamental problem with the benefit system is you are giving people more incentive to not work as opposed to going out there and looking for jobs. That's the problem first of all. That's the first thing as far as I'm concerned. Now there's another problem there, because what people get on job seekers allowance and all the rest of it isn't really enough to live on anyway. So how do you close the gap between giving some people enough to live on with job seekers allowance when they have genuinely fallen on hard times, and as well as making sure that what they earn is even decent. So they're problems. They're just problems. It's unreasonable to think that anyone can live on job seekers allowance alone, but at the same time, it's also unreasonable to make it the case that you incentivize people to do nothing rather than something, because then they will do nothing. And I guess my personal problem is with people who do nothing and have been doing nothing for a long, long time. I'm not just talking since the recession here. There are people, I remember watching Wife Swap years ago, and you had this guy who'd been out of work for 8 years, not really looking for jobs and stuff like that. It is what it is.
Is it not the case of, if you can't afford to have the child, don't have the child? Is that because obviously you said there's people that have the children to get there?
I think that You know, I'm going to go there. I reckon we should start off doing what China does. In China, they have a system where the government, if you're in a government job, you have to follow government rules. And one of the government rules is you can only have one child. I think that's how I understand it anyway. Now, I know that seems really, really extreme, but think about it. We don't have enough housing in this country, yeah? There aren't enough jobs, apparently. There isn't enough money to go around. If that's the case, if there aren't enough housing, there isn't enough jobs, etc., then explain to me why putting a slow cap or slow stamp down on people having as many kids as they want to isn't a good idea. I think it's worth consideration. I don't think it's fair that you've got a household of 10 and 7 of those are kids when these people aren't working, because you're not putting anything into the system. You're just taking. And I think another thing as well is what really riles people up is the attitude of these people. They think it's their right to go. Oh well, I put into this. My parents put into the system, so I'm taking it out. Really? You're really going to go there? You're going to really try and justify your non-contribution to society in that way? What riles me up about it is you've got a situation where it's this attitude of I'm going to do what I feel like and screw everybody else. How can you have that sort of attitude when you are in a society with other people? You know what I'm trying to say? You've got what, 65, 70 odd million people in the UK at the minute, something like that. How can you tell me that it's okay for you to do what you want to do, to live your life how you like at the expense of other people or on the dime of other people because of how they're working and on their pennies, but you don't care what they think? Of course they're going to have an opinion. I mean, what are you talking about? It's ignorant. Intention with this particular issue is the people who talk about wanting to get jobs and obviously have no interest, or the people who sit at home and breed themselves to death and have no interest in finding work. Then you've got these type of men who say, right, well, I worked solid for X amount of years, I've fallen on the hard times, and I'm on the dole. Okay. How long is that going to last? Now, you've got people who are genuine, because times are so hard, have been out of work for a year or two, possibly. Or maybe even a bit longer. All right, fine. But, like I say, there's a difference between that and something else. You've got extreme examples. And these extreme examples of, I've fallen on hard times, I can't really afford to have a baby, but I'll have one anyway, because I've put into the system. That attitude is gonna make people just feel a certain way.
Because the government will pay for it.
That's that attitude. But my thing is, why are you relying on the government to do anything for you? The government have their place, but too many people rely on the government. Oh, we should have more sex education in schools. The government should teach my child this. The government should make it so I'm allowed to do that, or I can do this. You're not in the real world. You know what I mean? The reality is the government has its relative place to keep order, to keep the economy stable within reason, and all the rest of it, all the other good stuff. But you expect the government to wipe your ass and feed you. In its place, it's fine. But when that comes out of the mouths of people who've never worked a day in their lives, it riles people up. It riles me up. It's like, really? So, I feel a certain way when I hear these people on the radio, or I read in the paper, or I see on the TV this thing about, oh, well, I've had 3 kids or 5 kids, forget the 3 kids, 5 kids, and I haven't worked in X amount of years, and I don't see why I shouldn't start a family. Well, for the simple reason that you're not paying for them. This is what the issue is. If you were paying for them off your own back, no one would probably be making the issue, but you're not paying for them. We're paying for them is what people are saying. We want our money back. All this sort of thing. I mean, you know what I mean? So, people are going to feel a certain way. So, you know what? I don't blame when you have Jimmy Carr doing his thing and you have a situation where people are refusing to pay tax. It's wrong, but I understand it. Because where's the tax? Where are our tax? I don't want to say tax dollars. Where are our taxes going? Yeah. Where are they going to? Who are they going to? The roads are in a mess. The the entire country is in a mess. The government has all this coming in, even though they're still bankrupt. The place is completely fucked. So it's no wonder people don't want to pay tax, because they wonder where it goes to.